Hey, this is Alan Adcock, CEO of ASC Group. Thank you for joining us for Cyber Sentinel today. Today we have David Hacker with Piedmont Real Estate Group as a guest. David, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
David, tell us a little bit about Piedmont Real Estate Group and your background.
Piedmont Real Estate Group's a full-service commercial real estate brokerage firm, and we also have a development arm where we've developed offices and other types of commercial properties. But we're a boutique, so we focus on small to medium and even large businesses, leasing and dispositions of commercial assets, whether it's office, and we also have industrial. We have a broker that works in retail as well.
Great. David helped us about 3 years ago get into the office space that ASC Group is located in, and that went well, and the space is working out great for us. So we really appreciate your help with that. So in the COVID world right now, everybody's at home working. Well, a lot of people are at home working. This is going to have some ripple effects through commercial real estate going forward. Tell me about market insights and conditions that you're seeing, and what are companies trying to do at this point, and what do you see them doing in the next few years as far as commercial space goes?
Well, what I'm seeing in the market is there's probably three different types of groups. There's the large companies who are really evaluating their real estate holdings because they are liking the telecommuting model. Then there's the medium business that needs to have the people together. They do not want their people working from home. And then there's the small guy that can stay, could come and go. He can use his space. So I believe we're going to see really large assets like Class A buildings downtown. They're going to see some really challenging times. But the mid-sized businesses are continuing to grow. They maybe have 2 days in the office, 3 days out, or a variety of that. The smaller businesses, they're looking to downgrade space. I've got 2 clients that have looked to reduce their holdings. We've given them a couple of different ideas on what they can do to manage that. But overall, the market right now, even though employment has been down, I use CoStar as my market source. And they pull a lot from the labor statistics from the Department of Labor, and Atlanta's a strong market, and I think particularly the north side of Atlanta, the office market is still relatively strong. You're still seeing rent growth. One of the biggest factors in commercial real estate is construction costs are really high. So if you can get in an office building like your building you have, Alan, if it would cost over $200 a square foot to build, and you can buy it for a whole lot less than that. So that the fundamentals of office existing buildings is still a lot stronger, which is going to, increase in time the value of your real estate.
Hey, David, have you had people talking to you about different configurations inside of offices? Are people going away from like big cube farms and that kind of stuff to more individual offices, or has there been anything around that area yet?
I haven't. I've heard people insinuate that, and I've got a client that is developing a CoWork space, and he still feels like it's pretty strong. I think that it just depends on the business type, and those that don't feel comfortable working in that environment are allowed to stay at home. So like an attorney's office that I work, they have some co-work space, and they're allowing their employees to stay at home. So it just depends on the company and their needs.
Sure. Yeah, there's some people who can effectively work at home, and we've talked a lot about technologies and things like that, how you need to set yourself up to work from home. But a lot of people don't have a place in their house, or the environment's not conducive to working at home, and they really need to be in an office to get
That's right.
productivity where it needs to be. So, so tell us. I mean, everybody's running on leases for their commercial space. How are leases operating today? Are there changes in the leases that are going on? If somebody wants to increase space, decrease space, what can they do from a lease standpoint?
Well, from a tenant standpoint, I think that's a really good question, and everybody has to evaluate what their holdings are. If you have 3 years left on your lease and you want out of it, you should have a conversation with your landlord to see if there's anything that can be done. I have a client that's got is at the end of a 5-year term, and they wanted me to go out and look and see what was available. What we did, we went out in the market. I showed them what was there. There was nothing that was a better deal than what they already had, even though they had more space than they needed. So what they're looking to do is renew their lease because they have equity in their lease, and that's something that needs to be understood by every office tenant. What is their lease rate? How does it line up with the lease rates in the market? So because he has equity in his lease, the landlord would love for him to leave even now because he's at such a low rate. But what he's going to look to do is kind of increase his office space and bring in subtenants to offset his lease rate, because there are a number of people that just don't like working at home. And I know for me, when my kids were at home, they're in school right now, fortunately, but if they weren't, I wouldn't be able to work from home. It's just too loud, and we don't have the setup for that. So many people also, I think, feel more productive in their work environment versus home. But every situation's different. Tenants can ask for a modification, and this was one of the ideas we thought of for this one guy. We're going to ask for to renew the lease, 3 months of free rent, and that might be the situation, or a reduced rent. You say to the landlord, I'd like to reduce my rent and by, for the next 6 months, because, relatively speaking, some businesses know that their trajectory is negative for the next 6 months. Well, you reduce your rent for the 6 months, and then you tack on 6 months at a higher rate at the end of the lease. So it's kind of a win-win situation. It gives the landlord some stability or sense of stability that the tenant's going to be there longer term, and it brings confidence that the business owner is still in the game. And that's the biggest thing I think we all have to look at, is like, no matter what the market throws at us, there's opportunities in every market, and we have to keep our eyes up and heads up and just make sure we have our facts in front of us.
That's a great point. Love that. So especially since, you're still seeing a robust market for companies looking to lease space. It's not everybody's running for the hills and we're all going home forever.
I won't say it's robust, but I am busy, and there are, my busy, it's a lot of new leases. It's not renegotiating leases. I think everybody's waiting to see. There's still a lot before this thing hit. There was a lot of money in the market. There's people that I believe have managed their businesses well, especially small to medium businesses that can withstand a little bump in the road. And hopefully everybody that had some downtime was using the time to be more creative and think about growing and how they can be more efficient.
So David, if we've got any of our business owners that are following us here on the show, if they're looking to get bigger office space, sublease space, whatever their situation is, how can they work with somebody like yourself that's a commercial realtor to make that happen? What is working with you bring them as far as options?
Well, what we understand is the market. We understand what landlords are doing and what the market is doing, and the trajectory. In certain locations, you're not going to be able to do but so much because of the demand for that location. Downtown Woodstock, for instance, which I live in Woodstock, it has a very strong market. In fact, our lease rate or our vacancy rate in Woodstock is one of the lowest in Metro Atlanta. So what that does is, for that we can only do but so much. And then there's, of course, the prices of rent. Some people might want to be in downtown Woodstock, but they don't have to. So basically, working with me, we can help you bring efficiencies in lease terms. If you need to renegotiate a lease, we can negotiate with the landlord on your behalf. Or if you're a landlord and you need some help on what to do to help bring tenants in, we can give you ideas on that. We help people maximize the return on the investment in their company as it relates to their real estate holdings. That might mean if there's ways to alleviate some of the stress of the costs, strategies to help manage that as it relates to the lease. Maybe you need to get out of your lease and you need to terminate your lease. We can help you either sublease it or assign the lease. And that's usually the terms of your lease are stipulate how that can happen. So we, personal guarantees, subleasing, there's different strategies. I have one group right now that asked me to help them, and they have 10 months left in their lease. And I was able to bring them and the landlord together, and the landlord would actually like to sell the property, and was expecting that the tenant would be able to stay there for the term of it, but it actually works out better for the landlord. So overall, there's a lot of strategies. It depends on who the client is or customer, and we're glad to help any way we can.
So that's all the time we have today for this episode of Cyber Sentinel. I'd like to thank David Hacker for being our guest today and talking about insights into commercial real estate. David, how can people reach out to you if they need your help with their issues with real estate?
Alan, thanks again for having me. They can reach me through my cell phone, 770-329-2878. My email address is david.hacker@piedmontcap.com. And our website is piedmontcap.com. Love to help you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. If you need to reach out to me at ASC Group, we are at www.ascgrp.com. And we'd like to see you on the next episode of Cyber Sentinel.